Hello, I'm Jay Byrne, and this is the EFX Loop. Welcome to this week's episode. This week we're going to talk about one of the greatest albums of all time. We're going to talk about Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. So, what do Bill Bailey, Jeffrey Isbell, Saul Hudson, Michael Andrew McKagan, and Steven Adler all have in common? They were all members of Guns N' Roses in 1987. Actually, July 21st, 1987, when the album Appetite for Destruction was released. Bill Bailey became AXL ROSE, AXL ROSE. Jeffrey Isbell was IZZY STRADLIN. Saul Hudson was Slash. And of course, Michael Andrew McKagan, DUFF McKagan. And Steven Adler didn't change his name, so there you go. Steven Adler just went with Steven Adler. I guess Steven Adler was okay for whatever with his name. Guns N' Roses kind of came out of the ashes of two bands, LA Guns and Hollywood Rose. They were members of, Hollywood Rose was AXL ROSE's band. AXL, IZZY, and there was another guy in the band, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, but AXL IZZY formed a band called AXL that eventually became Hollywood Rose. Slash and Steven Adler and Duff, I think, were also part of other bands at the time, and they, I know Slash and Steven Adler were in LA Guns. And so AXL got LA Guns together and Hollywood Rose together, and they all kind of met and formed together and became Guns N' Roses around 1986-ish. Probably more like 1985. So why Appetite for Destruction? I mean, most people have definitely heard of it. They are definitely one of the most popular rock bands of all time. But oddly enough, they didn't have that much recorded output. They've got Appetite for Destruction, Use Your Illusion, Volume 1 and 2, but it's essentially one album, split. It's a double album. Actually, Lies, I'm sorry, I missed Lies in between there. Guns N' Roses Lies, which was basically just a collection of like acoustic songs and an EP that they had recorded early on. And then you got Spaghetti Incident, which was a bunch of covers, punk rock, whatever. And that's it for the original lineup of Guns N' Roses. Like, well, they had a live album as well, Live Era, but that was official. Those were the official releases for the original lineup of Guns N' Roses. Now you've got AXL's Chinese Democracy, but let's be honest with that's AXL Rose's. He uses the name Guns N' Roses, and it's a great album. However, that's AXL's side project. I've never looked at Chinese Democracy as a legit Guns N' Roses album, because it's not. It's AXL Rose Chinese Democracy. However, let's get back to Appetite for Destruction. When I was growing up, when I was a kid, I was probably around 15, 16 years old. Actually, it was younger than that. I was more like 13 years old when Appetite for Destruction kind of popped onto the scene. And we were all metalheads, we were into rock music and older, like, Zeppelin-y, Aerosmith, that kind of stuff as well. And Guns N' Roses pops up. And I mean, I gotta tell you, when Guns N' Roses popped up back then, that was like the biggest frickin' deal to all of us. I mean, we loved that band. That was like the be all and end all. There was a raunch to them. They had this like, we don't give a crap kind of attitude. And they were controversial for their time. Because they just were a bunch of scuzzbags that came out of like the LA like club scene. That, I mean, they were like legit alcoholics, druggies. I mean, not that that's like a ploy, that should be something that we admired or looked up to, but when you're younger, that rebellious stuff really stands out. It's kind of like the music of the 50s and the 60s, where, you know, rock and roll was rebellious, so the kids liked it. You know what? At that point, metal music had gotten kind of to the point where it was like this glammy thing, and everyone, you know, these bands were very, like, it was glam, okay? And then Guns N' Roses comes out of nowhere. I mean, these guys were like pretty hardcore street dudes, you know, leather freaking jean and just the look, the whole package, you know what I mean? So it appealed to me as a growing musician and a guitar player, because I mean, Slash was awesome. Even though he could barely play half the time, he was an amazing guitar player. I mean, the guitar work on Appetite for Destruction is probably some of the best guitar work ever recorded in that style of music. Guns N' Roses to me is, you know, Live at the Ritz, 1988, I think that show was. I mean, that's Guns N' Roses to me. I mean, we watched that on MTV when it aired, okay? And most people don't realize it was actually a Great White show, because Great White was the band that the label was trying to promote, and Guns N' Roses was the opening act. But they filmed Guns N' Roses and Great White, and I've seen the Great White set. It's popped up. However, Guns N' Roses, I mean, their performance is like legendary from that time period. But anyway, we're getting a little off track here. Let's get back to Appetite for Destruction. I've got over here, this in my hand is my original Appetite for Destruction CD. I bought this sucker when it first came out. This came in a large cardboard box. That's these CDs. I also had it on vinyl, which I don't have the record anymore because a lot of my old records from high school melted in my parents' attic. But that's a whole other story. But yeah, this is it, man. This is an original copy of Appetite for Destruction. And this is the cover of the album, okay? There was also, the original cover was something called, I mean, YouTube doesn't like the word, so I won't say it, but it was a assault scene, and it was a photo, and it was a painting that was used as the original artwork, and it's actually, it's in the album itself. It's on the inner sleeve for the album. But they ended up having to switch it, and they ended up going with this, which actually I think is actually a better cover anyway, this classic cross cover for the album. This album was recorded at a place called Rumbo Recorders. I think majority of it anyway was recorded at Rumbo Recorders. Maybe not the whole thing, but like a lot of it was recorded at Rumbo Recorders. Rumbo Recorders was in Canoga Park, and it was, California, right? Canoga Park is California. And it was originally built by the captain of Captain and Tennille. I'm not sure what his real name is, but the captain of Captain and Tennille, like that 70s band. It's his studio. He designed it, and that was a place called Rumbo Recorders. And it was just outside all the hullabaloo, all the hubbub of Los Angeles, and it was far enough away so that bands could go there and they could focus and be separated from all the partying and all the craziness that was going on. Although, you know, the partying and craziness is probably going on in the studio as well. I mean, just look at this photograph on the back of the album. I mean, you can see that very well. But I mean, everybody in that picture looks either drunk or stoned or completely out of it. Like, actually, oddly enough, even though Steven Adler was one of the worst druggies in the band, well, Slash was an alcoholic and a half. This picture is hilarious. Steven Adler looks the most sober in this picture. We can talk about the gear a little bit. Slash used his Les Paul copy. It wasn't even a real Les Paul. It says Gibson on the headstock, but it's fake. It's the guitar that Slash played in pretty much all the early footage, the Live at the Ritz show, like the stuff that you see from that era. Slash is playing that guitar. It's like a lemon burst Les Paul. It's a fake Les Paul, but it's a Les Paul. Well, it's a Les Paul, but it's a fake Gibson. And Slash used that, and he used this modded Super Lead 100, a Marshall Super Lead. It's famous. It's got a very famous mod, and it was used by a bunch of bands. Actually, George Lynch used it. Dokken, a bunch of people used it. Like I said in one of my previous videos, the story goes Slash actually stole the head because he liked the sound so much and they couldn't find any other amps that sounded that good. He actually took the head, and then eventually somebody found it, like noticed that he still had it, and they took it back from him because it was a rental studio in Los Angeles. I think SIR was the name of the rental studio that they did it. IZZY, you don't hear too much about IZZY. He was most likely playing, I know he had a Gibson ES-175D, the big white guitar that IZZY used to play all the time. I'm sure he used that on the record. He also had a 335 and a Les Paul. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but he used those. But it was always been questioned, like, Slash was using Marshalls, that Marshall when he recorded the album. What was IZZY's sound on the album? IZZY's, supposedly, from the best that I can find, was a Mesa Boogie. He was using a either a Mark II or a Mark III. It seems like, as far as I can tell, it was the Mark III, the Mesa Boogie Mark III, through a Mesa cab. Actually, if you look at the back of the Guns N' Roses CD, you're not going to be able to see this very well in this video, but you can actually see the Mesa off to the side. You can see the Mesa cab. And actually, if you look close enough, you can kind of see that the head on top is a Mesa too. I think it's the Mark III. But, so oddly enough, IZZY's sound was a Mesa Boogie, which is not what you think of when you think of Guns N' Roses. When you think of Guns N' Roses, you think of Marshalls, you think of Les Pauls and Marshalls, and I mean, IZZY had that big white guitar. I mean, that was IZZY's guitar. Growing up, I mean, I love Slash's guitar, but I mean, I love that big old IZZY guitar too. Like, I mean, that thing is thick, man. It is like an acoustic guitar as an electric. Like, it's huge. But I mean, look, you got Welcome to the Jungle, It's So Easy, Night Train, Out to Get Me, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, My Michelle, Think About You, Sweet Child of Mine, You're Crazy, Anything Goes, and Rocket Queen. Honestly, on this album, every single song is good. The only songs that kind of, over the years, they can be kind of ignored a little bit. Think About You gets ignored a little bit, and Anything Goes gets ignored a little bit. But I like all those songs, I think, but those are the lesser songs on the album. Some of my favorite tracks on the album, It's So Easy is one of my favorite songs. Night Train rules. Mr. Brownstone is awesome. I love My Michelle, and Rocket Queen is great. Like, those are some of my favorite songs off this album. Of course, I love the songs that were famous, the songs that were popular, like Welcome to the Jungle, which, oddly enough, the Welcome to the Jungle video, I always thought the live footage on the stage was actually just staged live. It actually was filmed at a real Guns N' Roses show. And they shot the song Welcome to the Jungle while they performed it live, and they used that footage. MTV at first wouldn't play the video because they weren't too sure, because it was kind of a gritty, raw video, and they didn't want to offend anybody, and they were a little nervous about putting the video on. So they actually aired the Welcome to the Jungle video like late at night. This album really blew up. It really created, they became like the biggest band in the world for a short period of time. And they all kind of fell apart because of that as well, you know? But, yeah, I don't know. I love this album. Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. There's not too much more I can even say about it, other than Slash is a huge influence on my guitar playing. He's one of the reasons why I picked up a guitar. Him and Jimmy Page were the reasons why I picked up a guitar and wanted to play a guitar. And I mean, even my parents liked this. And what's funny about it is, as rebellious as it is, my parents liked Guns N' Roses. They liked the music. You know, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, the obvious stuff. But, yeah, so this is what I grew up listening to, man. In the late 80s, this is what we were listening to on repeat. This album is definitely one of the greatest albums of all time. If you're into this style of music, if you haven't heard this album, I mean, you owe it to yourself to check it out. I mean, nowadays you can find everything for free online, so go look it up if you haven't heard it. But I think we're going to end off this video with a little clip of Guns N' Roses. I'm a clip or a full song, whatever I decide to put, but you're going to get some footage here of Guns N' Roses live from the Ritz.
You know where you are!
you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, leave me a comment, give me some ideas for videos, because I gotta tell you, trying to keep up with all these videos gets a little rough, it gets a little hard. I will very much welcome suggestions and ideas for new videos. But anyway, like I said, if you like this stuff, like, subscribe, leave me a comment, you know, hit that little notification bell so you know if there's a new video coming. But anyway, I'm Byrne. This has been the EFX Loop. I hope you enjoyed. Take care.